coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 874, Gary's here, and we've got lots to talk about. I'm going to talk about, I've got my Twinkly, you can see the reflection of it there in the picture there. Got that working and how that's working. Gary's got an update on Samsung Smart Things. I've got new builds of Windows 11. I've got Android 12L on the Surface Duo. We're talking about that. And Richard has ordered a new Microsoft ARM-based PC. We're talking about that. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And nights are drawing in. It's dark evenings, but it's good to be here doing our regular recording.
It is. It's always good fun.
Yeah, no Richard this week and for the next few weeks because he's transatlantic, I think, at the moment, isn't he? He's on his way over anyway.
Is he hoping to have another launch?
I think he's going to have another go at it. Yeah. Yes, I think it might be another launch. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to catching him when he gets back. He has got a post that we can talk about later as well. Oh, you might have seen the reflection of in my picture, the twinkly light panel, which is now above my monitor here. So, but there's the reflection of it. So I've worked out to do playlists. So I've got all sorts of different ones. I've got some of the Halloween ones in there. So there's nice pumpkin ones, and that's a nice synthwave sun logo. I actually figured out. There's the Windows logo as well, and it rotates round as well. I got a GIF of the Windows logo and brought that in as well. I figured out what the issue with it last week as well is, unlike a lot of smart home things nowadays, you expect them kind of to be cloud connected, don't you? So that you get it connected up, and then you can, like your Hue lights or whatever, you've got the out of home control for it. But actually, with the Twinkly, you need to be on the same subnet as them, not only on the so on the same Wi-Fi network. So as you know, I've got multiple networks. So if my phone moves to one of the other networks, then I lose connection to it. So which is why and I had a signal because I didn't have my booster switched on, so it gets a bit weak in here. So there's a separate Wi-Fi hotspot in here. So it was my phone was switching over to that, so it couldn't see it. So and of course why the Amazon device worked with it is because they're on the same network. So there was no issues with that. So Amazon could always talk to it regardless of whether the app was talking to. Oh, there's the Halloween one because you see the Halloween one on there. But anyway, I've got this. It's working really well. In fact, I can share. So here is the app. Gary, you suggested using WSL for it, or WSA, the Android subsystem for Linux. And that's exactly what I did. So here is the app running under the Android, and it works brilliantly. I found the APK, downloaded it, and it works great. As long as you're on the same network, which I am in this case. I can control it, so I can turn it on and off. You can see I've got the playlist running. Here you can see all the different effects that I've downloaded and installed on there. It doesn't show them all on this one because some of them are on my phone actually. But here you've got the tools for creating your own ones as well, and the store I think is probably accessible on that. Yeah, there you go. So you can see all the different ones: reindeer, spirals. There are some Halloween theme one which might be good for the next few weeks. There's some Christmas ones and so on. Sort of there's fireworks. Oh, there's the Halloween one, and it's got all the different the effects that go with them. So yeah, so it's working really well, and you can create that into a playlist, and it'll just cycle through all those. So yeah, I've had some good fun with that. So it's quite nice. It's on a wall up there, and it makes a nice atmosphere when I get everything into my synth mode with the purple and blue lights and everything. So yeah, good that. So while there's no window app, this is a definite good use case for the subsystem for Android, the Windows subsystem for Android, because it just works out of the box. Dead straightforward. It's not in the Amazon store. Well, I didn't check. I just installed the APK. Of course, if Twinkly published it in the Amazon store, which they may well have done, I just haven't looked. It would work as well. So there you go. So all working well. So nice setup, and it was really easy to mount on the wall, just because it's light enough. Just a couple of screws in the wall, and that's up and running. So quite pleased with that, and it's a nice little solution running with a subsystem for Android on there. In fact, I think Microsoft said they're going to add Android 13 support soon, aren't they?
They are, yes. So I hear, anyway.
So I think it's 11, isn't it? Or is it 11 running on there? It might be 12 now, actually. But they're going to add 13 support as well. So that's going to look pretty good on there. So yeah, I found a good use case for the Android system for Windows. And talking of Android, I got my Android 12L on the Surface Duo. So I posted a video of this today, but it's actually a nice change. It's got some new backdrops and things like that on it. But you've noticed the quick actions look rather familiar. The design, the UI design, and everything else, it's very Windows 11. So they've taken a lot of the Windows 11 feel and ported it over to Android. Some of the transparencies and that kind of thing, but overall, it's a nice update to it. There's some nice built-in changes to it. So animations, I don't know if you'll see this on here, but when you close, it showed you on there. When you close an app, it goes back to the icon where you launched it from. So rather than just disappearing, so it minimizes itself back to where you launched it, the shortcut is, which is a nice little touch, but some nice little things like that on it. The settings has been improved. It's a lot easier to navigate around now. I said this. It feels much more like Windows now. There's an accent color as well. So just as you can with Windows, it'll pick up the accent color like this has done. It's picked the accent colors up from the background, or you can preset them yourself. So if you're changing your wallpapers, it changes the accent colors just like it does in Windows. So it feels a lot better. It seems to be a lot smoother. They've perhaps ironed out a lot of the UI glitches. There's improved camera mode, and there's a new pen menu as well. So if you're using the Surface Pen, there's a new pen menu to go with it as well. So overall, really nice update to the OS. I keep finding little things that have changed. Of course, 12L is supposed to support larger screens. Gary, do you have to target 12L? Is that when you're creating the app, do you have to target it differently?
You do, yes. Yeah, there's a few bits of changes under the skin around. I mean, there's always compatibility layers in that, which help with this sort of stuff. So you don't know, you can, all your old apps just about work, but if you actually want to use some of the special stuff on there, you need to target it.
Yeah, well, I found the apps work just the same. There's a couple of changes. I think the Chrome app supports dual window mode now at last. And there's some other minor changes, but it just feels like it's a much more polished user interface, which is great. So, and like I said, a lot on the hood, little changes. Some things gone away. That when you hold the power button down, you don't get the smart home button in smart home options like you used to do. It's simplified. So, that's I guess all part of native with 12L. So. But it works great. It's 3.2 gig for the update, which makes a big change because the last few updates have been sort of 20k or something like that as they do minor security updates. But this time you've got a full OS update, so it's available for the Duo and the Duo 2 as well. So it's going right back. So now, of course, all the forums are saying when we're going to get Android 13. But anyway, I like it. It's a nice update. I keep finding little UI tweaks and things that were better. Actually, one other thing is worth mentioning is the internet Wi-Fi button. It's a combined button, just as it is in kind of Windows 11, but it shows you your what you're connected to, which one of it's using. Was it using 4G, 3G? It shows you all that. So it's in a combined screen, which before it was you had your Wi-Fi and you had your data, and it's now into a combined screen. So it all looks pretty good actually. So I do like the look of it. So I'm quite pleased with that. A nice update. And talking of developers, we can finally pre-order Project Volterra. And can you remind us what Project Volterra is?
So this is the ARM-based development machine, which has been muted for some time. It's a tiny little thing. Reminds me of a Mac Mini. It's it sounds like a really good little box. I mean, it's ARM based. It's basically interesting. I think the interesting thing about this is the push for ARM based in the development field. So this is definitely trying to get developers to start using Visual Studio on ARM, using all the tooling on ARM to actually start writing code. And it's not that expensive for what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, it's Richard did a post today on it because I know he's ordered one. He's very excited. It's £579 in the UK,
which is not bad for what it is. I mean, okay, you could buy a tablet slightly cheaper. That same reasonably soon. Bad. It's certainly not a bad spec, and it's got all the USB ports. It's got USB-A ports, really display ports, so you can do all the sort of things. Yeah, I mean, it's a good bit of kit and very price competitive with the MacBook Mini. So Mac Mini's 699 in the UK. This is 579 in the UK. Mac Mini's got 8 gig. If you're showing the screen, 8 gig in memory and 256 gig of SSD. This has got 32 gig of RAM and 512 gig of SSD. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a very nice experience to see how it runs, and be interesting to see how many of these go beyond developers. I suspect it might be. It would have been a great media center box back in the day.
It would have. Yeah. I mean, Richard's post was exactly that, sort of saying, well, why is Microsoft only focusing on this developer? Because it makes a great box, and like he compares it with the Mac Mini. And I think he uses Mac Mini to run Windows using Parallels. So I think this is what he's getting this device for, is to sort of get away from doing that and just run this direct. So I think that's that's a great device. And I think it looks nice as well. Like you said, it's a nice slim device. In fact, Microsoft picture here, they have two of them stacked on top of each other, driving two monitors. But it's got plenty of ports on it. I think if it wasn't for the fact that it's got, I'd have some hardware compatibility issues with my older synths, I would probably look at getting one and using that as connected to a big monitor and using that as a little music studio device. But
yeah,
I think the older, especially like Korg drivers and some of those, they are 64. They're not ARM compatible drivers, and I think that's probably where I'd have some issues. If you were using it for general computing device, I don't think there's any issues, and especially if you're using it for development, because there's native versions of Visual Studio.
Indeed there are. I know I'm tempted to look at it from a camera server point of view, see if that's suites. And obviously you can run the Android subsystem on it, so you've got all that beauty of that. You can have it as a really nice Android dev box as well.
Yeah.
So, Windows and Linux as well. So a lot of things will run it. It'll make a great little silent computer.
Yeah. And in fact, it's the only desktop PC that Microsoft make, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything else has got a screen built into it. Yeah, I can see this. I can see same people that bought Mac Minis for various things. Yeah, I can see this. We can simulate. It almost reminds me of going back to where people used to get the original first gen Apple TVs and hack them and put different. What was it? They used to put the media. They used to be able to crack them, couldn't you? And put one of the media players on there, XBMC, that kind of thing. And so yeah, you could. In fact, the fact that it's quite expensive makes it probably not ideal for media. But yeah, if you want your own build server, then it's not a bad price because it's got that large hard drive on there as well. So I think it's a nice device. So I would like to get one, but I just don't have the use case for it at the moment. But Richard's I think he's traveling for the next few weeks, so I think when he gets back, he'll have it there. So hopefully he'll be able to give us a review of it, of how he's getting on with that. I think he's looking forward to getting Windows 11 on there. But like you said, it would make a great little media or server or a home server, that kind of thing. Or you can run your own home automation solutions on there.
Yeah,
and I know it's quite expensive compared to say doing that with a Raspberry Pi, but that's not what it's aimed at for this, isn't it? This is aimed at much bigger a much bigger platform for developers as well. So I wonder if you'll start seeing them included in your Visual Studio subscription.
You might do, I guess.
Yeah, you never know. They might have a tier with one of those in at some point. But looking forward to seeing how it does. I think it looks nice as well. It's not a Surface either, is it? It's just a Microsoft box. But yeah, you can buy it on the you can get it directly from the Microsoft Store. I don't think that price is that bad for what it is, and and it's available. I think it's on the Microsoft Store currently. It says 27th, but I think the new units are going to start shipping 26th, so which is pretty good. So if you pre-ordered it, you get one soon. So get your Azure Developer subscription and get one of these and get cracking. It'll be interesting to see what effect it has on it, on whether it does promote ARM development or whether it's going to be a sort of tinkerer's machine. Now, if there was a new build of Windows 11 last week for insiders on the dev channel, which I think there is an ARM version of that available as well, isn't there? Well, not a huge amount in this build. Let's see what we get on here. I think actually the main changes were all hidden. So they've introduced some things with the change the widget layouts. I think they're experimenting with some start menu layouts as well. Some notification badges on start menus. That was it. But I don't think I've got picked up all those features yet. So let me share this. So this had an ISO released as well. So if you wanted to get an ISO, you could do that, which is good. There was some changes to the group policies for running the updates and how when it reboots and that kind of thing. But for sort of general users, I think the main change is they're experimenting some different layouts of widgets. I didn't get these changes, but I did get the full screen mode, which I hadn't had for so far. So that's where you've got this button there that takes the widgets into full screen. So on my release version, you see there is no full screen button, and then if I go on the dev one, I've got a full screen button. But so they're experimenting with some different layouts on that as well, and I think they're also putting some notification badges against user profile on the start menu. But I did get the tablet optimized taskbar on my tablet, which is great. So finally, after not having this for ages, I finally got it back from when they took it away. I've got it back now, so, which is great. So it works really well on the tablet optimized taskbar. So that's sort of like the collapse one as well. So this build, not a huge amount in it, just some fixes, but they do seem to be pushing through some of these changes straight into the different channels, don't they? To release preview, into dev. I think the right-click task manager has made it as far as that's gone all the way to release, I think, now, isn't it? It's not in this one because I'm still not running the 2022 update, but it's gone through release preview, and I think there's a few bits and pieces kind of making the way through these channels now. Separate features, aren't there, rather than the complete. Oh, we had the tab browsing, haven't we? The tab file explorer and that kind of thing. So rather than complete builds, now we're getting these features making the way across.
Indeed, which is good. I mean, it's good to see some of the stuff actually creeping in on builds more generally. Yeah,
the one I'm looking for is the one where you can rearrange all your tray items. That's quite a nice little change. So these are some of these. I think feature changes are coming to the second update, which is going to be in the spring. So that, just like we had that one a couple of weeks last week, and we're going to have another one in the spring with that on it as well. So we're starting to see some of these features come through, which is nice to see. So it's good that we can test them. I just wish that they would. On the dev channel, there was an all-in mode where you could just test everything, and then they could phase it to the other channels. But they haven't done that. There was also some builds for release preview and beta as well, which, like I said, mentioned those features. Oh, something else I wanted to mention as well is last week I mentioned that some of my music is going up on Spotify and other places. So I'm pleased to say, I can share this window, that it's on there now. So first single is on there, which has got a 3-track single, and then there's a full album, which is just popped up today actually. So they take a few days to hit the store, so I think it was posted up last week, but now and available there, so you can get the whole album now on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer, all these different places, all done using that DistroKid service which I talked about last week. And it's a really simple process to update your stuff. So you make sure you've got your quality masters, and then you can just upload them and get your artwork and that kind of thing. So, and you see Spotify makes a nice page for you with that on there. So yeah, so link will be in the show notes. Go and have a listen. I don't think I'm in the Kate Bush territory just yet in the number of streams, but you do get some nice stats certainly from Spotify, which is the one I've been doing the most with, showing you the number of streams and a bit of demographic information, age, sex, other things that the listener listens to, locations you get. It's all anonymized, but it's quite interesting to see those stats and how they come through. And I'm sure the record companies love all that, getting that demographic information. In fact, I'm still watching that Spotify Netflix series I mentioned last week. I think it's called Playlist, but that's where they're talking about in that information, sort of all that demographic information. I can see why someone like Amazon would want to have a music service, not just for the fact it sells subscriptions and everything else, but all that demographic data about what you listen to and what you like to go with your shopping data. There must be so much analysis that goes on that data now. YouTube is the same as for advertising. Also, you get access if you're an artist as well. You can get an artist account. You get access to the charts as well. So you can actually see what's in the, what's streaming. I had a look at some of the charts for the summer, and like Kate Bush's song was getting a phenomenal amount of plays every day. And then you've got some other artists who are just getting that constant, all newer artists, ones I don't really listen to or haven't even heard of, but they were getting millions of plays. So it's to get up in those charts, you need a lot of streams, a lot of plays. So I'm not quite there yet. Double digits maybe, but not into the millions yet. Which I don't think ever be. Like I said last week, I'm not done it because I want to, sell loads of music. I've done it because I wanted to do it and see what happens. It's one of those things. It's a bit like burning a CD of music. Just want to see what happens, see how you can do it. Next will have to be a vinyl. Actually, I don't think I've got the link for it. I don't know. We talked about. Did I talk about the Teenage Engineering vinyl? Excuse me, the vinyl system that you can make.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we mentioned it off there or.
Yeah. So Teenage Engineering, they do some brilliant music kit. But one of the things that they did, I think I did mention it because I remember finding a link, is a record to make your own vinyls. In lo-fi, but you can effectively burn your vinyls, and I think it was completely sold out when I looked at it. But yeah, it's a great idea so that's the only the last formats to conquer, and then done CD, done digital, and then vinyl will be next. So yeah, it's good fun though. I do enjoy that, and I've got a load more stuff. They're getting into the synthwave stuff now, which is very retro 80s with kind of that purple hues and everything. It's pretty good. So I mean, I'm enjoying doing some of that. Anyway, DistroKid has worked out pretty well, so I quite enjoyed doing that. Let's move track on to Smart Things. I think you had an update on Smart Things for us.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned before that Smart Things is changing. That they're doing away with their current language base for their sort of custom applications and device drivers. which is called Groovy, which is what they've had since day one when the SmartThings wasn't part of Samsung. And there's a lot of hobbyist stuff written using Groovy. There's a whole load of drivers out there in various bits and pieces, and they're going to be replacing this with a scripting system based on Lua, LUA, which is another known language. It's used in quite a few smart home automation systems, so it's not unheard of. And what they call edge drivers. Now, there's some great things about these edge drivers. They're not based on the cloud. They can be running locally. So there's a lot of advantages for them, but there's also it's slightly more challenging as a developer to actually create them, and there's a lot of issues around them, and that they can't access external sources very easily. So this was going to mean a lot of potentially very useful services which were running on SmartThings wouldn't run at the end of this year when they finally switch off the Groovy side of things. But there's been a couple of things added to the Groovy forums, sorry, the SmartThings forums, where there's people are actually starting to create some really interesting edge drivers. And one gentleman's created an edge driver which talks to a service he's written, which is like a intermediate service, which allows, because that's on your local network, Edge can talk to it, the Edge drivers can talk to it, and then that can do anything like it needs to talk to weather services or whatever you want to make it talk to externally. It also can receive messages as well and pass them on. So things like, from my point of view, one of the things I was going to miss this was that I use my Blue Iris camera system to send notifications to SmartThings movement. Proximity, so rather than having proximity sensors, I do it based on the camera detector movement using AI, and I couldn't work a way of making that work with SmartThings because there wasn't a way of sending these messages to Edge. But with this driver, you can get around that. So what I'll do, I'll give you a link to the SmartThings forums to put in the show notes. But it's really useful that these things are starting to come out. It does seem the community is starting to work around these issues. The next one I need to look at to see if there's a way I can replace my Lightwave RF driver I came up with, created maybe with this approach. But it should be feasible. I mean, if you can send me HTTP request, you can definitely do it. But yeah, it's good that these things are coming out. What will actually happen is, I think they've started doing this now, they'll start transitioning all the existing what they call DTHs or device handlers from Groovy to these edge drivers for all the commercial products. So ones where they're sort of Philips Hue, etc., where they were able to survive before. When there's a new edge driver been written by that same commercial entity, they'll port it across automatically. They do say that there may be some loss of functionality while they do this, which is never good. And also, I mean, a lot of these commercial drivers weren't particularly good, which is why there's a lot of custom drivers actually been created over the years. So I suspect there'll be a few people frustrated by this when it happens. I mean, they have been pretty good at notifying everybody. There's still obviously going to be people who miss this. But things mostly ZigBee, most of the wave drivers should work. The devices should still carry on working. Some Wi-Fi devices may not straight away because they don't have drivers, and it may take a while for some other things to come across. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting period at the end of the year. I mean, listen to it over New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, so you've got a bit of time when you're off to.
What, this is like a millennium bug, isn't it, for your smart things? Yeah.
Smart things.
Yeah. I suppose you're just going to make sure you're getting ready, but at least there is an option rather than just being completely gone.
Yeah.
Unlike my D-Link smart plugs, which do have an actual death date of the 31st of December.
Yes.
Yeah, for those ones ever for a while. But yeah, at least there is like, there is a way around that. So I see the SmartThings as sort of more and more things seem to pick up support for them as well, isn't it? So I don't know relative to the other platforms how much what market share it's got, but I do see more things getting advertised of supporting SmartThings.
Yeah, I think that's very true actually. But SmartThings, and the other one which seems to be getting a lot of support is the Broadlink system as well. And then there's I forget what the other one is. There's a couple of ZigBee hubs which seem to be getting pretty well supported. Amazon, of course, always very well supported.
Yeah, I mean the ones you almost see out of the box is Amazon, Google, and Apple, but I've started to see smart things quite often. And I'm guessing that's partly because it's just installed on so many phones now, because with Samsung Android.
You've got Samsung push behind it. I think there is actually several advantages to the way they're doing these edge drivers and make them more secure for commercial use, so that some commercial partners will come on board because of that. And it's easy to monetize them as well. So obviously that again is another aspect which some commercial partners were maybe interested in. So I think and there's also a marketing push from smart things as well. Samsung are definitely pushing it at the moment.
Yeah. At least there is some transition options. Like I said, there just seemed to be a tendency recently of things just disappearing, going, end of date, and there you go. But at least there's some options around that.
Yeah, well, there was a rumor that might happen with smartphones as well. So it's good to see it hasn't. Even though it is going to be a pain for me to do with all this stuff, but
yeah. Actually, to have some things that stuck around a little bit longer. Do you know today, as we record on Tuesday, is the anniversary of Windows XP? This day, 2001 Windows XP, so it's now 21.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's some places still running it.
There must be.
Especially the embedded one. Yeah, you see quite a few of those, don't you?
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem that long ago. In some respects, I suppose it does. If you think back, 2001, all the things we've been through that time, the trusted computing and security and all the things that came with Service Pack 2. And it kind of brought in an era, didn't it, of Windows being a consumer operating system in the limelight in the way that sort of hadn't been done since '95, really, wasn't it? It was the first operating system that was 64-bit. Oh, sorry, not 32-bit. Well, it was 64-bit later, but yeah, it was the proper 32-bit Windows NT system that you could go and buy in a shop as a home user rather than just the commercial ones.
Yeah, and obviously ushered in the era of multimedia as well.
Yes, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
I always remember going to, I think it was actually a phone launch, a compact phone launch, and they were running Windows XP and they were playing the music on it, and that was like sort of a revolution that you could actually play your music on your computer.
Yeah, because we kind of had I think Windows Media Player really took off then with XP, didn't it? I think because you could get it for other platforms, I think, but the one before Windows Media Player on NT or on Windows 2000 was the square one, wasn't it? The very basic one. Whereas XP, it came with those skins that you could have the different skins, and yeah, you're right. It was that kind of consumer multimedia machine, home machine. And of course, then later got Windows Media Center, which UI became Zune, Windows Phone, Windows 8. It all stems back to XP. Well, FreeCell, was it? Diamond. What was the? They were the code names. What was the original Media Center one? I think that was Emerald.
Emerald, yeah.
Of course, that had the skins in as well, didn't it? Skins or whatever, the different UI you could choose. You had the slate one. The tablet one had a kind of Chrome defect on it, didn't it? And all those kind of really, it was where we saw a big step forward for Microsoft UIs, especially on the enterprise desktop, from having the grey start menu of 2000 to being this blue colourful, and of course everyone's favourite backdrop, the what was called Teletubbies at the time, wasn't it? Because the grass scene on Windows XP looked very much like Teletubbies. In fact, I remember people accusing the OS of being a Teletubby OS because it had colourful logos and curved edges and that kind of thing. It certainly doesn't. Windows 11 looks a lot more refined, but it did, like you said, it did usher in that sort of new era, didn't it? And I think really where my interest for Windows for consumer side kind of started with Windows XP. I think at home I was still using probably 98 or ME or something like that. But it was XP where you could really do stuff at home and link things together and like you said, serve media up and media player and all that with the skins and everything. It all came together around that time. So a very important OS for Microsoft, and really the one that a bit of a rocky start with the original releases, but it really didn't want to die either.
No.
All users didn't want to let it die, I should say. So yeah, so 21 years today.
Actually, I mean, the only other thing I'll possibly mention, because it's been a long time coming, but the era of free EV charging may be going away.
Okay.
Because I mean, at one stage, every Tesco's they had actually free EV charging. They were basically paying for the charging to encourage people to shop at Tesco. But that, I mean, it had a back effect that a lot of people just sat on the chargers forever. And certainly recently, there's been a lot of commercial electric vans using those charging up. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? If you could get your charger free. So I think it's the end of this month. They're starting to charge on all of their EV chargers at Tesco. So they're going to be we're still a reasonable rate. I think it's 20 something pence a kilowatt now, depending on the type of charging. But yeah, I mean, it's good. In some ways, it's good to see the commercialising it, because it makes it more likely they'll actually increase the number of chargers and the like. But in other ways, it's sad that I mean, I think I certainly see that rapid chargers should be charged for. I don't think there's any justification for a rapid charger being free. Where I do think there's some more likelihood that there is a justification for free charging is on the destination chargers and the low power chargers. My local shopping centre still has free charging, which is effectively included in the price of parking, but it's no different to normal parking. And that it does encourage you to go there, spend a bit of time there, and you come back out and you've got a car charged when you go. But yeah, so I think that's definitely something which is a potential changer and game changer again. I mean, obviously the whole price of charging has gone up astronomically recently. Still, even with that, it's still cheaper to run my EV than it would be to run with a petrol car. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I guess while there was relatively few cars could take advantage of the free charging, it seemed like a good idea. But for the supermarkets, they're just going to be they're going to be looking at that and seeing take people to perhaps taking advantage of it and use it and taking that up. Whereas the slow charging, it makes sense at something like a shopping centre to take people to there. But I guess eventually that will go away as well, because once people go there anyway, because everyone's got these vehicles, then it's no longer a perk. So everybody will charge for it. I suppose it's just, I think you're probably coming towards the end of the golden age for EV owners, aren't they? Where infrastructure outweighed what was there, what was in usage. But now as it gets more popular, then it's just another user, another driver, as opposed to a special class.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, that's a shame though. But it's perhaps it just shows the popularity of EVs over time. Interesting, actually, I got a call from the guy that I deal with when I changed my car. I'm not due to change it for quite some time, but he actually left me a message saying, I want to talk about your next car because the lead times are so long. I think it's sometime next year I'm going to change it, but they're looking at long lead times now for vehicles, so that the dealers now are all trying to get in early.
Yeah, which actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, the lead times are incredibly long at the moment. 18 months on some cars, and I mean, I've heard people actually waiting 2 years for a car, which is crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, the big issue at the moment, of course, is with what's happened with the interest rates in the last few months. People have been waiting 18 months, perhaps had deals lined up at the rate they thought they get, and suddenly, because there's always exemptions on these deals, that if the base interest rate goes up significantly, they can change the deal. They're suddenly being asked to find a lot more money for the car that they thought they were going to have to find for it. And that's a problem. I'm seeing contract hire rates go up and all sorts of things because of that. which is good.
Yeah, and maybe they will see some less demand as people consider what they're doing because of the finance changes. I myself, I've just got to decide what I want to do because while interest rates were low, these finance rates were pretty good. But if you've got to start racking up interest charges, you maybe want to do a different approach and initial payment and that kind of thing. So yeah, it has a lot of questions, but it's also hard to predict where you'll be or where the economy will be in 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. So you can't predict where we are within the next couple of weeks at the moment. So you're kind of signing up for something that you don't really know where you'll be in that time, and vehicles are changing, new models, and it is quite hard to predict, isn't it? So it makes it all a bit more of a dilemma when choosing because you don't really have the full facts, but it makes it interesting. But we'll see. Oh, one other bit of news as well I want to mention is for the first time in a long time, I actually had a lot of downtime with Sky Broadband today. As I was saying, we record on Tuesday. It affected a lot of the northwest of England. This afternoon, anyway, I was working from home actually, and so lost internet. And usually it's because one of the routers needs a reboot, and there's nothing significant. They just reboot and everything carries back on. I did a reboot and nothing came back on. That's a bit strange. I went on my router and checked, and it actually had no DSL signal. Or the actual internet side of it was down. Normally it's just the router that's dropped a bit of Wi-Fi, it's run out of IP address or something. But actually it was off completely. So using my phone, I managed to. So always the thing I do usually when you get outages like this is you just do a search on Twitter for whatever the issue is. So search for Sky Broadband, and there was just loads and loads, and apparently it's been up and down all day in the northwest region. So Manchester, Warrington, Preston, all across the northwest. Luckily, it was only down for say 20 minutes, and then came back on for about half an hour, then went down for another sort of 20 minutes. So didn't affect me too bad. But of course, I was in the middle of a sort of Teams message and thinking, "Why's no one replying to me?" and I lost everything. You just don't realise when you're at home, when you're working from home, and it goes, you just lost all connectivity. And yes, you can tether your phone, but it's not quite the same. And then it's thinking, well, look, smart lights won't come on. My heating is on the app. Everything's on using some internet connection. I thought, what I'm going to watch tonight? How am I going to speak to Garry if there's no internet? So, fortunately, it was back on anyway. So, I did see a lot of people complaining, saying it's ridiculous, everything. But as us that work in IT know, things do go wrong. And if they get them fixed up and running, and then you can't really complain too much. It's a fact of life. Things go wrong. If things didn't go wrong, there'd be no IT support jobs.
Indeed.
Yeah. And usually it's a developer that's broke it anyway, isn't it, Garry?
Absolutely. Yeah, always. As I always used to say, there's no such thing as computer error. It's always somebody.
Yeah, that's one of my pet hates when people say it was a computer glitch. No, it wasn't. Somebody did it wrong. But that's often the blame, isn't it? But yeah. Anyway, so everything's back on now. So the only things that work were my old synths. They just work. There's no internet on them, so they work. So no problem with that. But actually getting any work done was difficult. Well, I think that's just everything we've got for this week's show. I don't think Richard will be with us next week. I think he might miss the next couple of weeks, but he'll join us from the States when he can, and we should have his review of his ARM desktop device as well soon. So we should be back same time, same place next week. Garry, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Garry with 2 R's WMA. Excellent.
And still getting good usage out of your drone for your videos?
Oh yeah, really good. Got some good shots of the cars in the follow me mode and a couple of other things and things in the pipeline on that. So yeah, it's good fun.
Excellent.
I did think about flying it out in the storm the other day, but then thought about better of
it. Yeah, I mean they're a lot better now. That old one I had was terrible. It was a slight bit of wind and it was hopeless. But I think the new ones are better, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. Electric strikes from lightning. Probably not done.
No, probably not a good idea. So I'm at iSticks on Twitter. Make sure you check out the Spotify link that I include. I also play a track from the album. And we'll see you next week.
Take care.